With the socialist triumph of 1910, Milwaukee's ship of state made a 180-degree turn. The city moved from municipally sanctioned vice to a new era of honesty, efficiency, and concern for the working person. Emil Seidel was in command. The new mayor was plain-spoken and passionately committed to social change. He was surrounded by figures of comparable energy. Daniel Webster Hone, a Waukesha-born labor lawyer, was Milwaukee's city attorney. Charles Whitnell, a banker with roots in the greenhouse business, served as city treasurer. Seidel's private secretary and left-hand man was a raw-boned Illinois native who had worked as an organizer for Wisconsin's Socialist Party. Carl Sandburg was destined for fame in a different field, winning Pulitzer Prizes in both poetry and history. Every Saturday afternoon, the mayor convened the entire Socialist caucus, 50 or 60 people, to chart his administration's course. Seidel's goals were clear.
We wanted our workers to have pure air. We wanted them to have sunshine. We wanted planned homes. We wanted living wages. We wanted recreation for young and old. We wanted vocational education. We wanted a chance for every human being to be strong and live a life of happiness. And we wanted everything that was necessary to give them that. Playgrounds, parks, lakes, beaches, clean creeks and rivers, swimming and wading pools, social centers, reading rooms, clean fun, music, dance, song, and joy for all. That was our Milwaukee movement.
Emil Seidel was reaching for the sky, but he had no intention of bankrupting the city. Milwaukee's socialists, in fact, were every bit as frugal as the average Milwaukee householder, and infinitely more honest than David Rose. Seidel removed so many dead men's names from the polling list that he claimed to have saved the city $500 in annual printing costs. This pragmatic idealist had only 2 years to carry out his program. The Republicans and Democrats had been deeply embarrassed by the socialist sweep, and they were determined not to let it happen again. More concerned about power than principles, they united behind a single candidate in the 1912 mayoral election, Dr. Gerhard Bading. The combined weight of the old-time parties was too much to overcome. Dr. Bading beat Emil Seidel handily. The Socialists lost their majorities on both the Common Council and the County Board, and Victor Berger came home from Washington. One high-ranking socialist kept his job, City Attorney Daniel Hone. Hone had built his reputation as Fighting Dan, a champion of the working people against the city's entrenched interests. Largely self-made, Hone had left home at the age of 13 and worked his way through school as a cook. Dynamic and determined, he was an obvious candidate for higher office. In 1916, Dan Hone took on the lackluster Gerhard Bading and won, becoming Milwaukee's second socialist mayor. He held the office for the next 24 years. Hone lost none of his spark as Fighting Dan, but the mayor developed a vision of what he repeatedly called a better, bigger, and brighter Milwaukee. What that meant in practice was a devotion to municipal enterprise. Milwaukee socialists believed that public funds should be invested in public housing, public health, a public port, public planning, and public parks, all for the greater good of the greatest number. And they did it with businesslike efficiency. A true Milwaukeean, Hone hated debt, and he worked to put every city department on a pay-as-you-go basis. Although they rarely had a majority on the Common Council, socialists dominated the city's agenda. They were the only group with a program, and their ideas set the tone of public debate. Those ideas included the first city-sponsored housing project in the country. Garden Homes opened on the far north side in 1923. It was a cooperative designed to ease a dire shortage of working-class housing. The cooperative aspect faded years ago, but Garden Homes remains a distinctive Milwaukee neighborhood. Public health was another priority. Milwaukee launched a prevention program that helped double the average citizen's life expectancy between 1900 and 1930. One of the most serious threats to public health was neutralized during the Hone years. In 1925, the Jones Island sewage plant went into operation. Wastewater was not simply dumped, but treated, and sewer socialism took on a literal meaning. In an ultimate act of civic recycling, Milwaukee dried its sewage sludge and sold it as Milorganite, a popular fertilizer. An ambitious landfill project turned the rest of Jones Island into a genuine outer harbor. The docks provided room for a new generation of ships too large to dock in the Milwaukee River. Both the sewage plant and the port were necessary, but they spelled doom for a community soaked in tradition, the Jones Island fishing village. One by one, the city bought out the Kashubians and their neighbors. By 1922, there were only 6 families left on the island. There was less and less room for such improvised settlements in modern Milwaukee. In 1920, the city adopted its first zoning ordinance, ending the days when a tannery could go up next to a townhouse.
Sewage plants and zoning maps were welcome improvements, but one public enterprise outshone all the others. That was parks. When Dan Hone took office, the city had a definite shortage of public green space. By the time he left, Milwaukee had one of the finest park systems in the world. That system's godfather was another socialist, Charles B. Whitnell. Largely self-taught, generally unpaid, he was the chief architect of Milwaukee's future for an entire generation.
Charles Whitnell pursued public green space with the zeal of a missionary. Nature, he believed, was a necessary antidote to urban life. Contact with creation was vital to the souls of city dwellers. Whitnell could conceive of no higher calling. "We are seeking," he once said, "to conserve not only God's country, but humanity." Whitnell and his co-workers did not have to start from scratch. Beginning in 1890, the city had developed several major tracts of parkland. Lake Park was the East Side's jewel, and Washington Park was the pride of Milwaukee's West Side. Both were designed by the firm of Frederick Law Olmsted, the most prominent and prolific landscape architect in America. Milwaukee parks housed 2 of the city's major tourist attractions, the zoo at Washington and the Horticultural Conservatory at Mitchell Park. But open space was scarce and scattered in the early 1900s. What Whitnell hoped to create was a genuine system, one that would bring the influence of nature to bear on every neighborhood. In 1923, he unveiled his master plan. It called for 84 miles of public green space along the county's waterways, with major parks at selected points in the double loop. Every home, Whitnell wrote, should feel the environmental influence of natural shores, with the essential forest support. With surprisingly few changes, Charlie Whitnell's plan became the template for all future park development. Both the city and the county added aggressively to their holdings, filling in, acre by acre, the blank spots on Whitnell's map. Perhaps the system's crowning glory was Lincoln Memorial Drive. Milwaukee's lakefront, its premier natural resource, had long been off-limits to ordinary citizens. In 1929, after years of landfill activity, the lakefront became a park for all the people. Decades later, Lincoln Memorial is still one of the most spectacular stretches of urban shoreline on the entire Great Lakes.
Lincoln Memorial Drive capped a remarkable period in Milwaukee's history. Amos Seidel, Dan Hone, Charlie Whitnell, and all the other socialists did much more than restore Milwaukee's good name. They showed that government could be creative, compassionate, and responsive to the needs of the people. As a result, Milwaukee became a national model of sound management and civic virtue. We haven't always measured up, but socialists set the standards that still apply today. But Milwaukee was never a world apart. Even as it became a model of good government, the city was touched by forces that made it more like every other place. Some of those forces developed inside America's borders. Others rose on the far side of the ocean.